Hey there, Cheesemeisters, and welcome back to the Peach Pod. That would have been Switch It Up, the feedback version
Oh no.
by David Silver and the Commotions. Now, apparently, has a band, which is fun.
Oh.
He didn't have the kid from Shaw going all yeah with him, which I think is probably part of why this didn't work so well for him. But it's tough to be a last minute add on to a Battle of the Bands competition. Because you're a part of the Sanders management team. I am Jeff, and I'll tell you this. I know a mega bite from a mega burger. And joining me on the other end of the internet is my cuz-host.
I'm Leslie, and I hate it when you're morally superior.
It's tough to be caught in a morally, what's the opposite of superior?
Inferior.
Inferior position. Morally inferior position. Oh, this is going to be a rough one if I can't think of the word. It's like inferior this morning.
If we're morally bankrupt.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. If we're like Brandon and if we're Steve level morally bankrupt, I think we're gonna have trouble today. Shout out to Star Trek girl. Is that what you said?
No, it's a Star Trek group, and yeah, it's Yep, one of many silly memes they share.
Gotcha. And it doesn't have anything to do with Anne and Shadowcaster.
No, funnily enough, no.
All right. So this week, Cheesemeisters, we are talking about Season 3, Episode 14, Wild Horses. Original air date, November 18th, 1992. Can you tell we're in sweeps? It feels like we might be in sweeps.
Minus the Dylan thing. Honestly, like, yes, I feel like I'm in sweeps, and then I'm forced to watch Dylan hook up with another girl to deal with his problems. I'm forced to watch Dylan be morally superior to, adults who actually have to survive in this world. And yes, they suck, but okay.
I don't know. Those adults they're surviving. They'll be okay. Like they got all this.
They will be, but again, we'll get to it. Just Dylan, shut up.
Yeah, no, I feel you. This is the episode, everybody, where Dylan meets Anne and she sells a horse, and it's a big moral problem for him, I suppose. But it's also the episode where we meet Diesel Stone and the Waste Management, and we see David Arquette play a guitar, which is... Somebody texted me last night. I got to tell you this. So Adam texted me. Shout out to Adam. He was watching. He's watching a program last night. He's watching Twilight Zone. So, and this is what he texts me. I'm gonna have to let him know that I'm telling you this, but I don't think it's a matter. All right. He said they're watching Twilight Zone, and he's seen it a few times, gone through it a couple times, and he said, for its time, this might be the greatest show of all time. The shit they did in 59 and 60 is crazy, and just made TV. We just watched an episode that had Rod Serling in a scene as meta as anything that we watched in Deadpool last night, because they watched Deadpool the night before. The episode was about a playwright who could create characters through dictating them and destroy them by cutting the tape portions into which he dictated them and throwing the tape into the fireplace. Oh my God. Serling was doing an epilogue and saying how the previous piece was a work of fiction. And then the guy who played the playwright in the episode shows up and says, "Careful, Rod," while holding a piece of audio tape and an envelope with Serling's name on it. And he throws it into a fire, and Serling disappears. Right. It's cool. It's super cool. And I said, yeah, that's awesome. Counterpoint for the greatest thing you've ever seen on TV, I'm watching David Arquette play a guitar on 90210 as a guy named Diesel Stone. So I don't know which of those things is more impressive, but I kind of do, because I see it through different eyes.
No, fuck that guy.
Axl Rose is a sellout.
So 90s.
It really is. And then it's the episode where everything comes crashing down on Steve, and he has to finally admit to every bad thought he's ever had in 4 seconds.
I wish I had complete peppers. I wish I had a kazoo.
Did that feel triumphant to you?
It did, except for the fact, oh, we may have to cut this out because I'm going to sing a little bit, but we finished it last night and I went, he'll be back. Soon you'll see. They'll let him back because he has money.
Oh man, do you know of what show you're watching?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. So yeah, I liked this better than my memory of it, because my memory of it is so overclouded with the stupidity of Dylan and Anne and Shadowcaster. It's just so fucking I hate that storyline so much.
It just makes him look like a douchebag.
Well, it does that. But it also, like, this is now 2 years in a row where Sweeps comes and we send one of our male characters away from everybody else to have a whole adventure. And last year, Steve went looking for Karen Brown in New Mexico on a bus, and then flew a private plane back because Steve is rich. And this one, Dylan leaves town, but gets, like, I'm not sure he gets more than 30 to 45 minutes outside the city limits.
No.
Because, like, here's the thing that I didn't know this about, like, Los Angeles and Los Angeles County. But there are towns, I learned this recently, like in the last 2 or 3 years. There are towns where people still just ride horses down the street. Like, that's a legit thing. Like, because of, like, how those communities developed and when they were founded, and, like, there's just these horse communities around Los Angeles. So I'm not sure that I don't think Dylan got to Santa Barbara. Like, he's not that far away, but his car breaks down, and he ends up spending the weekend or however long at this rich lady's ranch where she's got a horse and I don't know, a whole crew of, like, he ended up on Dallas. He's in South Fork, just north of Hollywood.
Yeah, and I mean, ultimately, it feels like they just wanted him to realize that cutting people out of his life wasn't the way to do this again, even though he clearly just needed to get away, and that's fine, except you were running away from all the messes you created and the one that you could have fixed. Like, again, I get it. I listen, for as much as I want to be back in school and in that lovely little net, I'm not sure how you could entice me to take the SATs again. Just it's so long. It's such a long thing. Again, I think back to all the snacks I had. I needed to wear layers because, of course, it's cold in there because they're trying to keep you awake. Like,
legit, I almost forgot there was an SAT thing happening.
That's really what sends him over the edge. Like,
it is. But, like, the
real juggle women, he doesn't mind that. What sent him over the edge was the fact that he was gonna, again, these spoiled children.
Yeah. What sent him over the edge is he finally got accused of being who he is. Like, and he just, like, that mirror he didn't like that mirror.
No.
And so he leaves town and he finds a different mirror called Anne. And doesn't like that mirror either. So he turns around, heads on back home, I suppose. But not before Anne sells her horse for $1.3 million.
Cash.
Straight cash, homie. To that guy who wears I don't even know what that was, that jacket he's got going on. Like, half-assed denim cowboy thing he was wearing to dinner.
I don't know. That was a lot. And that wife was already drunk. Shout outs to that actress being like, I'm gonna be a sad drunk wife.
Hey, I like your idea about indentured servitude, you racist fuck.
Good God.
I know she hates her husband. It's pretty funny. She's just like, all right, where's dinner?
I bet Dylan wasn't around in '85.
That's right. You're in nappies. I'm gonna have a drink. Don't buy a horse. I'll be right back. Don't buy a horse. He bought a horse.
She has all the chuggy shit that says "live, laugh, love." It's 5 o'clock somewhere, or it's 1 o'clock. No, it probably says it's wine o'clock somewhere.
Definitely, yeah.
Oh.
She's doing her best to get through, but I think she's in a marriage of financial convenience. She's just like,
she's trying to avoid.
Yeah, that's true. So let me ask you this before we get into what this episode is really about. Did you throw up in your mouth or throw anything this episode?
Oh, I definitely. God, now I think I wanted to. I threw something. I wanted to throw something when Brandon slut shamed Nikki.
Okay, calling her a groupie.
Yeah, I was like, oh, fuck you, sir. I'm sorry. Once again, I forgot. You suck. I don't care that you're gonna come save her later. You called her a groupie. Fuck off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. She's a band-aid, Brandon.
Also, when Steve dared ask Hubert.
Oh yeah.
Of course,
take the fall, asshole.
I was like, you. But then they gave this guy.
God bless Herbert.
God bless Kurt. It was beautiful. I love what they did with that. I love that they gave a character who's clearly not going to be back. Or maybe, I don't know yet. Oh God, no. Oh, I just had a storyline pop into my head and I don't want it to be true.
Okay, well, let's see. All right, we gotta look at my face, see if I give anything away.
Okay. I have a bad feeling he's gonna find out Steve took the rep for both of them and he's gonna confess it. And then Steve's gonna get let back in school.
Oh, okay. All right, interesting.
I really don't want that to happen.
We'll see. You're not gonna have to wait very long to see the resolution of Steve's expulsion. So, like, it might get resolved at the end of next episode. Who's to say?
I mean, the fact that we get 15 minutes on domestic abuse and nothing. Again, we got shortchanged on so many things this episode.
Yeah, they were trying to do a lot because it's sweeps, and they're fucking doing a lot. I mean, like they moved all of the character storylines forward in this episode, in kind of meaningful ways, which is interesting and kind of nice. And the thing that I realized watching this episode is, because like everybody knows by now how ridiculous we think this is, but also how much fun watching 90210 is.
Yes.
And how much I love this ridiculous program. But here's the thing that I don't think I appreciated until this episode on this rewatch is what a good job the writers room has done in mapping out this season's storylines.
Okay.
And making them connect to one another. You know, like so far we've seen Jackie had a baby, so Kelly didn't go on the trip.
Mm-hmm.
So Brenda did. So Brenda and Dylan broke up. And Kelly and Dylan started to see each other in this little thing. And then we get Monsieur Rick, who comes back. Like all these things, there's interconnections between the storylines. Nikki meets David and tells about how she thinks keyboard players are way hotter. What?
Yep.
Your boyfriend's a guitar player, even though she said he's a drummer. Whatever. Just a lie.
Oh, yeah. Whatever.
And then the senior buddy connections. But the bigger part of it that I realized is that they're using one storyline to put what happens with Steve after this whole thing feeds into the resolution of another storyline.
Which is why I am so psyched to find out who hit Andrea. I mean, I'm psyched to see Gil go behind bars because it's home. Like, again, you have he comes in, he tries to disrupt the order of the newspaper, and is constantly getting in her way or getting in her head about like, Mr. Myers, skill, whatever. Like, and then noted as the teacher who flirts with the young girls, almost
He's
gets
for
fired.
girls with party shoes. Come on.
Get the hell out of school. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Get away from the schools.
Yeah.
Almost gets fired and then comes back. We have not seen him since.
Yeah.
Because I think he probably went on a booze run or something and got drunk, got behind the wheel. Or he was like, I gotta get rid of Andrea. She's gonna ruin my career. Either way, he hit her.
You know what? Here's how you can't ruin Gil's career, because there's an all-girls school out there that hired Chris Suter. So, I think Gil's going to land on his feet. Because there's some real shady schools out there. I'm just saying, as we move forward in the season, there are things that are going to get paid off because a character who had a totally different storyline, because of that storyline, was put in a position where they feed the resolution of a different storyline. Yeah. And that is pretty intricate. I have real trouble saying that word. Intricate storytelling. I know it's tough. It's a rough morning.
I'm sorry.
Right. No, it's okay. Well, I'll learn the English language at some point. I have lots of time left. It's fine. All right. So, what is this episode really about? Because I have a few things, but what do you think? What do you got?
I had a few things too, but I'm going to start with the one that I think is the most broad across the board. Okay. Everyone has trust issues.
Yeah.
And that is the only way I can give anyone on this show a little ounce of empathy. Like, because everyone is valid in their trust issues. But I also say to the world at large, like, you are not special. Everyone has issues, Yeah. And, but yeah, I mean, Brenda rightfully does not trust Kelly. Mm-hmm. Let's see, who else? David doesn't trust what everyone says about his career right now.
He doesn't trust Steve.
That's the bigger thing. He doesn't trust Steve. Yeah. Brandon doesn't trust Nikki.
All right.
For reasons. Herbert doesn't trust Steve. Like, a lot of people don't trust Steve, and rightfully so.
Mm-hmm.
But there's definitely discontent all around. I would say Kelly probably has some trust issues with Brenda, but I'm like, honey, it's ill.
I tell you what, Brenda has trust issues to the point where she calls it out. Like, she tells Brandon specifically that she's like, I don't even know who to trust around here anymore. It seems like everyone has secrets. And then, in the ultimate act of betrayal, Brandon says chin chin as he walks away, betraying Brenda's ability to respond in any way that makes sense, because she did not see that one coming. Nope. And then she has to say chow chow, because she's like, I can't even trust you not to say chin chin as you walk off, you fucker. And now I got to ad lib chow chow, asshole.
It was so random and okay.
It's a total Jason Priestley ad lib at the end of the scene move.
Oh my god. I love that earlier in the episode at some point he told Kelly, like, I love you like a sister. I love my sister like a sister. And again, I don't know. But the fact that I have an idea that maybe he and Kelly are going to be a thing at some point, I'm like, sure. Oh, this further drives home that you and Brenda have a
well, yeah.
At least
this is the second time, right? That he's told Kelly that she's like a sister to him at the spring dance, and then
you love your sister.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. I will say this on Brenda's behalf here. She gives him she checks Brandon a couple times pretty successfully.
Yes.
She's like, "Well, you're just being a dick. You know that, right? Like, how about don't be?"
Well, she's been to France, so she's a woman now. She knows
how to. Oh no, I just have to powder my nose. Go listen to the Clue episode, everybody.
Coming soon.
Yeah, exactly. No, coming already. They would have listened to it before this.
They would have.
Yeah, you just listened to it on Friday, everybody. I'm sure you enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are trust issues all over the place in this episode, and rightfully so, because everybody is acting deceitfully.
That's the thing too. Like, well, yeah, and Dylan doesn't trust rich people, and I'm like, but you are rich, and I have a bad feeling you're not going to do. You're not going to be better than these adults because you don't treat people better than these adults treat each other. You know?
Right. I mean, maybe. I mean, what we're supposed to get from this Anne thing is on the nose because Dylan says it out loud at the end, which is, I've now seen you and I don't want to end up like you. And you're not tethered to anyone. And those ties are, I felt tied down, but the ties are the things that connect me to people. And he says it out loud. Like, that's what it is. He was learning this lesson. But it dovetails into one of the things I think this episode is really about, which is that everyone's at a crossroads. Like Dylan leaves because he's at a crossroads. He has to make a choice between obviously taking the test, not taking the test, being called a liar, not being called a liar, Kelly, Brenda, all of these things, whether he's going to continue to ride a motorcycle and really care about the motorcycle like he did that one episode, or really care about the car, which he's doing in this episode. He's got a lot of things he's got to choose between. But he also, like, he's at this position when he leaves, and he ends up in another crossroads. He ends up in Anne's house where he could choose to stay and live there and be a kept man and
Be a boy toy.
Yeah, she'll pay him whatever he thinks is fair, which includes coochie. And if he thinks that's fair, whatever's fair. That's what I want to just whatever's fair. And so he has to make that decision. Am I going to continue to go forward? Am I going to go back? And when he goes back, spoilers, he's going to go back. He's still in the middle of this love triangle. He still has to make this choice. So Dylan is just stuck in the middle of this decision-making crossroads. So is Steve, right? Steve has to decide whether to continue to lie about everything to everybody, including getting David a spot in the band showcase. That he's been telling people about this for weeks because everyone has made plans. Yeah. Like, everyone's like, oh yeah, we're going. And the school knows about it because David's like, shout out to everybody who was rooting for me last night in the Battle of the Bands that clearly we've been advertising, and even though Steve never put me on it.
That's Sanders.
Yeah, Sandra's management team. He's been lying about being a music industry manager, qualified human being. He's been lying about the legacy key, about having it, about using it. He's been lying about whether he changed his grades. He apparently is lying about telling some dude that Kelly was really sexy in bed.
But he never needed an excuse to be nice to Andrea.
Right. Which is true. Everybody can be nice to you don't need an excuse to be nice to anybody, Steve. Just be a person.
Right.
But, or lying to Mrs. Teasley about everything he does because she's an authority figure. And then or telling literally everybody the truth about everything in a 30-second time span. Like, he's just I'm just letting it all out here, guys. Like, if I say it all right now, then you'll see that I'm honest, and maybe we'll all forgive me and we'll move on and everything will be happy. Kelly and Brenda are at a crossroads. Like, are they going to continue to fight over Dylan, or are they going to get over it and be friends?
No, for 5 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, hoes before bros is where they ended up here in their crossroads situation.
Chicks before dicks.
That's right. Rhyming word. Other rhyming word. That's how we do it. So yeah, this is like this doesn't conclude anything.
No.
You know, like it moves things. A lot of stuff happens. Like it feels like it concludes the legacy key grade changing thing, but Steve's still in the middle of this. He got kicked out of school, but we know that's not the end. It's not like he's just going to vanish.
Yeah.
Hey, remember, like he's not going to become Sue Scanlon, you know, or
That's why he goes to work at oh my god, what is it? That's why he goes to work at Chippendales.
oh yes, he does. Yeah, he's got to do something.
Oh.
I don't know. Shouts to Ian's earring for looking just fucking rock star at 60. That dude looks like he's 41. So God bless. All right, what else might this have been about?
I also thought about the fact that at some point in our lives, or even in various places or with certain people, everyone is playing a character.
Sure.
Like, it's something I feel very sensitive to the point where sometimes when we leave an event or something, I will look at Walter and go, "Did I sound really fake?" And he'll thankfully tell me no, whether or not it's true. I
Right.
don't know. But like,
Mhm.
I feel like looking at this episode, everyone is no, maybe not everyone, but most of the people are playing a character at some point. Like
Sure.
Steve is very much playing the role of I'm a good guy. I'm a manager. I've got this
Mhm.
covered. I'd never said that about you in bed, Kelly. Uh,
Right.
you know, Brandon is always also playing the role of I'm a good guy. I stand up for women. Like don't do me wrong, or I'll tell you what I think. But I'm gonna beat this guy up for you. Um, Kelly's. I feel like Kelly's falling into playing a role because people have listen, I get it. When people are saying things about you and you're like, fine, I am, to quote Wicked, I'm wicked through and through. Like,
Mhm.
play this role. Um, and I can't remember who else, but Dylan in a way,
Mhm. He's pretending not to be rich when he meets Anne.
And it feels fitting for kids. I mean, I think kids emulate the adults they're with sometimes because it's a safety mechanism. Like,
Sure.
oh, if I agree with you in this moment, then we're okay. You're going to protect me, kind of thing.
Yeah, sure.
You know?
Sure.
Or like, well, you're never going to believe me, so I might as well play this part because trying to convince you of anything otherwise is too much effort. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, we see that a lot in teen dramas, I think, especially with like the bad boy character.
Mhm.
He's not really bad, he's just drawn that way.
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, I think this could also be about how everyone is playing a character somewhere.
I think that's very true. They're all um putting on a face for, like Brandon Brandon's tough guy act is so tiresome to
Mhm.
me. Like this whole like aggrieved boyfriend, angry at Weasel, like goading him. Like there's no reason for Brandon to get in a fist fight at the end of this episode.
No.
He's not protecting Nikki. She's already gone.
Yeah.
He's out the door. He's just starting a fight with this guy because he wants to punch him.
Yeah.
And like it's just
And again, I
why
think I mean, yes, why act that way? But I think he does that because of earlier in the episode when Steve looks at or is talking to Nikki and goes, "When are you going to dump this guy and get an upgrade to a real man?" And I
right.
think that was secretly like burning an ulcer in his intestine the whole time.
Well, I tell you what, we're lucky because Nikki's like, is Mel Gibson available? And if the lesson that Brandon took from that is, I should probably be more anti-Semitic in
Oh
order
God.
to impress Nikki, like at least he didn't go that direction because that would have been real. That'd be real rough.
Yeah. Oh my God. I was like, whew, that's one, even if he things had aged well about him, never I've always kind of looked at him and been like, not for me. Someone likes you, but it's not me.
Yeah.
And then
Nick.
more stuff came out, and I was like, well, I was right.
Yeah. I try not to like that guy. I tell you who I like though. Again, I love Nikki.
I
Like,
know.
and I think she is like the scene where she is in close up the entire time with a shiner, like starting to defend Diesel, catching herself defending him, like pulling herself out of that old pattern. Dana Barron is so great in that scene.
Yeah.
I want more of Nikki all of the time. I just do.
I wanted more leading up to this because, again, it just seemed to come out of nowhere
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden. Not to say that she was, some strong feminist on this show. She wasn't. But at the same time, it just felt like 0 to 100 real quick. But
Mm-hmm.
again, she's been in a safe place. So that could happen where you're new, no one knows your triggers or anything, and there are none around you. And then all of a sudden, that minefield is suddenly in your backyard and
Right.
you regress completely. So,
Mm-hmm.
maybe they did do a good job. I wanted more. And I
Yeah.
mean, she carried it well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it would have been nice if there was more build up to that kind of thing. But I do think that her reaction was written well, and I think it was performed quite well.
Yeah.
And Brandon is a total fucking turd, but he's just. But I have a theory as to why Brandon acts that way that I want to talk about in Nostalgia Corner.
Okay.
So here's another thing I think this episode is really about. This episode is about people being in the middle. Donna is stuck in the middle between Brenda and Kelly, and rightfully tells them to shove it up their asses.
Well done, Donna.
I know. I like it when Donna gets sick of people's shit and like yells at them about it. Thumbs up for that. Dylan is in the middle between Brenda and Kelly, but he's also in the middle between Anne and the rich guy who wants to buy the horse. Brandon is in the middle between Nikki and Diesel. It's just people stuck in positions where they're having to like do this shit the whole time. And Dylan makes one choice. He gets out of the one middle and he's going to end up back in the other. I don't know. Brandon's middling here it's helpful in that he gets Nikki away from Diesel, but like it didn't have to go that way. If he hadn't reacted as strongly as he did to the idea that she might want to hang out with her old friends.
Right.
Nikki's right there. Like, we go to the Peach Pit literally fucking every night, dude.
It's blessed.
Yeah. Can we go to one other place with some other people one time? Just once.
What happened to that cool coffee shop where they were doing, stand up adjacent?
Right. Yeah. Where's Sky?
I didn't need them back. I just need the cool ass coffee shop in a warehouse where they're doing like, spoken word.
I want the guy who was the stand-up comedian there who did the baby crying jokes. Yeah, I want that guy back. More of that guy, less of everything else. No? All right. Yeah, they could have gone there, but they just went back to this. They went back to a different part of the soundstage.
Yes.
I don't know how obvious it was if you're watching this episode without like AirPods in. Like, I'm getting the audio pumped right into my brain. And the way that the feet sounded on the ground and when the door slams, they were on a soundstage and it was.
Oh my. And
they slammed the door and you could sort of hear everything move a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, that's just, they went over there. For that part of it. But Nikki's right. Like, maybe let's go do something else. And it's like, it's not, we don't know at that point, neither does Brandon, that she's falling back into old patterns.
Yeah.
and maybe if there'd been a little more, we would see that, and we would also see red flags with her desire to go hang out with her old friends. But as it is, we're just shown these are my best buddies. Can we go hang with them a little bit? We do this other thing with your friends fucking all the time.
Yeah.
We can take a night off. And Brandon could have just been like, yeah, that's fine. We'll go do your thing. Brenda's right. Wouldn't it have just been easier to go for 15 minutes and then leave?
I mean, he's doing a good job staying sober at all these events where there's clearly alcohol. Like,
Oh, Brandon and his alcoholism from that one
yeah.
time he had a drink and wrecked his car?
Like, I feel like that's part of why he just wants to keep going to the Peach Pit. He's like, this is safe. There's no temptation. But like, you've been to other places. You've been
I
drunk.
think
Like,
I think Brandon has forgotten that he once drank too much. I think the writers have forgotten.
Mondale.
Yeah. R.I.P. Mondale. The other thing I think that this episode is definitely about is Can't Buy Me Love.
Oh.
This is about the limits of what you can buy. Because it gets a little bit on the nose in the Anne and Dylan storyline. Like, you can buy this horse. Like, you can 100% buy this horse, even if it's not for sale.
Mm-hmm.
You can buy shit like that, but you can't buy off Hutch. Not when shit's about to hit the fan. You cannot buy off Herbert. You just can't do it. You can buy off entry into a battle of the bands. That's a thing you can just throw money at. But you can't buy off David if you're Steve by sending his demo tape to 10 people. Steve is like, it's like he's starting a chain letter. Like, I sent this to 10 people, and if they just sent it to 10 of their favorite people, then in 2 weeks, the whole world will have your demo. This is not a plan, Steve.
Oh, God.
This is not a management plan, but, he's on his way out the door. He can't buy his way out of the problem with the school yet, potentially, maybe, if that's the thing that happens. I don't know.
He's going to donate to the library.
R.A.P. Bob Knight. Something Bob Knight did. He donated to the library.
That's right. He did. Very clever.
I'm a good guy. There's just so much of people trying to buy stuff in this episode and running up against the limits of it. Like, it'll get you so far, but it's not going to get you the human connection that Dylan claims to want. Speaking of human connection, Dylan fucked Dan, right? Like 100%.
Totally.
Yeah.
He's got a problem. Like, honestly, borderline was thinking, like, is he going to be a sex addict or something? Because he, you know what? I'm not going to dig myself into a hole. I don't know enough about sex addicts to say anything. I just feel like he is making some choices that aren't healthy. And I don't know what his motivations are for, like, oh, you left 2 women behind that you have strung along, have made them feel like you care about them, and now you're going to do the same thing here? Because here's the thing that really pissed me off at the end of that whole storyline. He tells her off, again, theme of morally superior in this. He tells her off and then puts his hand on her cheek and goes, take care of yourself, and kisses her. And I'm like, you manipulative son of a bitch. Which,
yeah.
Like, and yeah, man, now I'm just realizing too, there was an underlying theme of abuse throughout all this too, because whether or not people are going to agree, I don't care. But like, Brandon is verbally abusive to Nikki. Diesel is obviously physically abusive. Dylan is definitely going to be an emotionally abusive fuck. And of course, in the 90s, we're only just starting to acknowledge, I shouldn't say just, but you see these themes happen of like, oh, teenagers are getting abused in relationships. We need to start addressing this, Yeah. Verbal abuse, that's not as bad as physical abuse, so we'll talk about that later. I don't even know if they had registered emotional abuse on their radar. But we see that in all of these guys.
Yeah. All the guys in this episode suck.
They really do. And I know I'm going to sound like I'm male bashing, whatever. It's the truth. These guys are not good in this episode. Whatever their intentions are, their actions show differently.
Uh-huh. Yeah. No, Steve has been out there just straight lying to his friends and being mad at them when they see who he really is.
Yeah. I mean,
Like,
people love throwing around the word gaslighting, but like Steve definitely gaslights his friends.
uh-huh. Yeah. Brandon, I can't believe you would accuse me of having the legacy key, which I very much have right here in my hand.
Should you be groveling?
Yeah. Yeah. You should apologize to me more for being right about who I am.
Kelly, is that how you think of me? I did tell that guy you were sexy in bed, and I'm sorry.
Right. Yeah. And Kelly's like, well, yeah, that's how I think of you. That's who you are. Like,
This is why people get confused when something abusive happens to them because it's not always clear, you know?
mhm.
Like you think it's going to be a one-time thing, or if they say it, or if it's verbal or emotional, it's really unclear. Like yeah.
Well, as Nikki said, like Diesel's a really good guy when he's not drinking and when he's into his music. Like, like she sees both of these sides of him and chooses to focus on the side that's not throwing her against a wall or whatever. And Kelly kind of does. They all do the same thing with Steve. They all see who he is. They all see it and they let it go because I don't know, because he buttons his shirts up all the way to the top or something. Like whatever reason it is they have for keeping him around, they do,
because
and
it's
they
really
forgive.
it's also really hard to set boundaries with people. It's really hard to cut people out. Like
Mhm.
some people it's easier than others, but like someone who is, say, a classmate, someone you have to be in close contact with a lot because of your classes, your whatever sports team you're on, or extracurricular you're doing, it's not going to be easy to write them off. And so,
Mhm.
I mean, this might be one of the last shows where we're seeing how you have to coexist with these
Right.
people. Now,
Yeah.
you should be able to set boundaries and not be insulted for them or not be called out about them. That's
Uh-huh.
fine. But again, I feel like in a school setting or if it comes up, say, in a family setting, like it's not as easy as people think.
Yeah. I will say this though about Steve and his being a shithead. Um, that is some bullshit with Andrea. The I never needed a reason to be nice to you is such bullshit because he doesn't need a reason to be nice to her. Steve and Andrea have had this thing sort of playing with each other all year.
Yeah.
And they even, they kissed at the end of, like, when they were studying, right?
Yeah.
Like, he kissed, they had the little makeout sesh on the bed. And he doesn't need a reason to be nice to her, but he certainly takes advantage of the opportunity to try to take advantage of her.
Yeah.
Like, he is very much trying to manipulate her. He's pumping her for information. What else would I want to pump you for? Like, he is using her, and he doesn't even really apologize for it. He apologizes to everybody else for being an asshole, but he doesn't apologize to Andrea. He admits to what he did, but he's like, that wasn't about you, Andrea. I wasn't using you. I wasn't being mean to you disingenuously. Everything else I was doing disingenuous, start to finish. I'm a terrible person, but not with you. And it's bullshit. Like, it's just garbage. The way he treats everybody. And I mentioned this to you in text, but there is something I find super gross about the fist fight between Brandon and Diesel.
That's fair because it's uncalled for. Like,
Yeah.
I totally understand. the anger and the urge to hit someone. I get
Uh-huh.
it. But there are consequences to actions. And also, that's not what she needs right now.
Mm-hmm.
You're putting yourselves both in danger, and also you're just trying to look like some savior, you know?
Right.
There's
Yeah.
no need for it. And I think when I was rewatching it, there was a moment afterwards when he's leaving Diesel and he's on the ground like, "Oh, I've been hit." Brandon does look at him kind of like, "Oh shit, what did I just do?" Like
Did he? Good.
it's very
Okay.
small. He looks like he's full of contempt, but also like, God, he hit her and I hit him. Am
Mm.
I any different?
I did not see that half a second expression on his face. Like I just missed it. But the expression I got from Brandon was, "I'm going to go again. I will fight more."
Yeah,
Like his jacket kind of off, and he's like, just like he's like
you'd be giving him too much credit because again, this is the person who I'm being sold to is the protagonist. I'm supposed to root for him, but he does this shit every single week that I'm like, really? My God.
yeah. He's like there is when we've seen Brandon yell at people a lot. Like Brandon is self-righteous. Like constantly fucking self-righteous, like to the point of wanting to shoot him in the face. But we haven't seen him be rageful.
Yeah.
And this feels like rage. It feels like a different level of anger issue to me with Brandon, where it's like he's aggressive towards Nikki and really aggressive towards Diesel, even when all Diesel did was like make fun of David, which again, I have thoughts about. You know what? Maybe it's time for those thoughts. All right. Here's why I think Brandon got so upset at Diesel for slagging on David. Brandon has seen what Switch It Up can do. He has seen the power of this song. He knows that in its proper context, Switch It Up, if heard by the masses, can form a circle or at least line dancing. He knows that this song has the power to end gang violence and racism. And he goes to this battle of the bands waiting to see I don't remember what Star Trek movie it is where they put like the Genesis bomb on the planet and it turns a dead planet into a living place. But
Oh, I don't
that's
remember.
what Brandon is. Yeah, I don't remember either, but it's a thing. But that's what I'm expecting Brandon wants out of this experience. He wants Switch It Up to play and for the world to start to change. And then there's feedback. And nobody likes Switch It Up. It's been the moment for world peace has passed. And Brandon is feeling all kinds of ways about it. And he's hurt by the fact that this thing he wanted so much, the healing power of David Silver and the Commotions, has been destroyed by feedback. And Diesel is like fucking Vanilla Ice asshole. And Brandon's like, you don't know what you just missed out on. The world was about to change, fucking weasel. And you're shitting on David Silver, the man with the power of the music to change all of humanity. I'm going to punch you in the face.
Wow.
Oh, you're also abusive to my girlfriend? Double punching.
Yep. Wow. I think
That's
you're
what
right.
I think
Yeah.
that's what's happened.
Listen, it's really
This song
hard
is
being a young guy. It's really hard being a man right now.
It's hard being anyone who wants to see global change happen and
Yes.
have it stopped by Diesel Stone. I think that's
Yes.
what's really hard.
That's who stopped it.
Diesel is a problem. Look, don't
He
trust
is
a
a
guitar
problem.
player. You know what I'm saying?
Oh shit.
Uh,
Shots fired.
well, he's a guitar player. All right. Anything else that this is really about?
Oh no, I think we got it.
All right. So, what did this make you nostalgic for?
Okay, so I have a bit of a story because I was trying to think about like, have I ever? I was thinking about had I ever like had a fight with a friend in high school who I didn't talk to, and I didn't, but then I remembered I was briefly part of a love triangle. So
Ooh,
let me explain. Because it's very much a story of like Leslie thinks she's involved, but she really just gets pushed off to the side. There was a guy in my choir, and every day between me coming into choir and him leaving choir, he would like hug me really tight, and I started, and this was like leading up to a summer theater trip, and I thought, oh man, maybe he's like flirting. Other people seem to think he was flirting, and the summer theater trip was going to be out of state for a week, and everyone knows that means romance.
sure.
So the first, let me backtrack again. So again, leading up to this trip, my good friend at the time, uh, who I think of a lot when I when I'm watching Brenda and her shenanigans, I'm like, she reminds me so much of this girl. We were going to be roommates on this trip.
Mm-hmm.
Our first evening on this trip, girl, guy, I are and a few other people I think are all walking around and exploring the campus that we're on, having a good time. And it's getting to be late and we have a severe time that we like curfew. We have a very strong curfew that we have to be in by, otherwise we go to like teen court the next day. Not even kidding. Um
Scale.
yeah, and I'm a freshman. I am the most rule abiding person I have ever been freshman
You're
year.
Herbert.
Yeah. So it's getting close to time, and girl and guy are like, well, we still want to walk around some. And I was like, okay, well, me and the rest are going to go back to the dorms because I really don't want to be late and I want to get ready for bed.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I,
Snogging.
I put the nail on my own coffin because,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, they definitely developed a closeness.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they kissed that night, but here was the real drama. She had a boyfriend back home.
Ooh.
And so not only am I having to share a room now with a girl who I see as someone having taken my chance at a first kiss,
Sure.
but
Mm-hmm.
now over the course of the next week, as she is continuing to date this guy, people are letting the boyfriend back home know.
Ooh.
And I have to listen to her talk to him late into the night and pretend that I'm sleeping. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? This is how I'm spit. And I'm actually glad my mom was chaperoning on this trip because I didn't cry about this dude at all, but I was definitely sad, and she knew it. And I was also sad that you know someone I considered a friend
Mm-hmm.
would do that, and so many other judgmental thoughts as freshman me. Wasn't the
Sure.
most open minded, but I still had a good time after all. I wasn't slut shamed after that summer.
There you
Uh,
go.
you know, did I have to wait another 6 months before my first kiss? Yes, I did. But it's fine. It happened eventually.
There you go. Good job. What do you get smooched?
The silliest drama.
I know. That's what you did. You fucking Conawayed yourself.
Did I?
Yeah, you didn't show up for work, and then they replaced you on Taxi.
Oh, shit. Oh.
Well, you went home, and they're like, "Well, she's not here. I guess I'll give her lines, meaning my tongue, to this other chick."
Basically,
Yeah,
basically. And I mean, the girl and I did very much look the same, so it was kind of like, oh, well, she's my type.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, you Conawayed yourself. Show up to work. That's a Pete Best situation too.
Oh,
You
no.
know. Yeah, you get sick, you show up, we hire Ringo, you're out.
I
See you
didn't
later.
want to be late. I didn't want to miss curfew.
I understand. It's you made a choice, and the consequences are. 6 months
smoking.
to smooch. Yeah, it's tough. I think what this makes me nostalgic for is going to Battle of the Bands,
Okay.
which are kind of fun. Like I've only gone to a couple of those, but like a music showcase where people are like that it's an industry crowd because people in the business are always looking for new talent. Shouts to Nikki for saying industry and business interchangeably, like she's
Yep.
supposed to. I went and saw there was a band in Louisville that our cousin John used to be in, who makes our theme music. He was in this band sort of when they started.
Mm-hmm.
Then he went away to school, and the band sort of continued without him. But there were other people in the band that I went to high school with, people I liked. They were called 100 Acre Wood, but copyright. They changed their name to Digby, and I really liked them quite a bit. I would really like to go see them around Louisville. And I think maybe they like started playing again recently, which would be kind of fun to see. And they did original music. Like they played their own stuff. It wasn't a cover band. I was like, this is awesome. You guys are like out there really making music.
Yeah.
And so I would go to see them at bars and stuff. And I saw them one night at this bar, and this guy comes up to me and he's like, you've seen them a bunch, haven't you? And I'm like, yeah, I have. He's like, I can tell because you're not even watching them. You're watching the room to see if other people are digging them the way you are. He's like, this guy's a weirdo. And I was like, yeah, I guess I was doing that, you weird fucker. That wasn't even Battle of the Bands, but I did see them at a Battle of the Bands. I don't think they won. I don't remember who won.
I've never been to one of those.
Diesel Stone and Waste Management, I think, won the one that I was at too. Different Eyes is a banger. What do you want?
I want people who are artists and not assholes. But I know it's a tall order.
Well, sell out. And Diesel just out there. I mean, I don't know why. Okay, so he likes Eddie Van Halen, but not Axl Rose. Is where he comes down on it.
Also, his glaring. You know what Brandon didn't like? He saw himself in Diesel when he had his jacket open and he's just wearing like Snoopy when he's playing a vulture.
Did you notice Brandon's like a little bit of chest hair? Like,
oh, I did. But
his when he was wearing his uniform for the Peach Pit, it was pretty low cut and a little bit of chest hair poking up out of here.
Oh, it's so nice when you get through puberty.
Sexy.
I mean, he's covered in it, so I know.
There was a Czechoslovakian Brothers sketch on SNL, the Wild and Crazy Guys.
Yeah.
Where they're at a bar and Steve Martin is like, "What's the matter? Can't you see enough of our chest hairs?" He's like, "I use a special soap that makes it nice and crispy."
Oh my god.
It's very funny. Yeah. Neither here nor there, except for Brandon he was given the Jim Walsh. You can tell they were later.
He had an earring too. He had like straight up gold hoop.
Oh, did he? I didn't even notice this week.
It was brief, but I saw it.
Very
Maybe
90s.
that's why he hit him. It's the earring.
Yeah. It's a very 90s move, the earring. It was the dude earring. I mean, we saw David gave Mel and Jackie each an earring. So, earrings large in the culture.
Yes.
1992. All right, who is your Steve Sanders Memorial worst person of the episode?
Okay, so I think I have to rank them because it's definitely like
fuck ton of them.
It's dudes. It's every dude but David. You know, just like when the girls hang out with, they only hang out with, I don't know what I'm trying to say. The girls will hang out with David. They won't include the rest of the boys. That was a mess. But
did it make you feel inferior? I remember the word this time.
It made me feel morally bankrupt. It's got to be Diesel.
Yeah.
Closely, like they're all just like neck and neck. You know,
it's a photo finish here. Yeah.
Oh yeah, like this would be the worst photo finish of a derby race ever.
Shadowcaster would have won though.
Nose, hair.
Yeah.
Chest hair. So okay, it's It's Diesel,
Yep.
Brandon,
Okay.
Dylan,
Ooh. Okay.
Steve.
Dylan is worse than Steve in this episode. Interesting.
Steve at least has a moment of awareness in this. He
Mm-hmm.
takes accountability.
Mm-hmm.
Now, again, he's manipulative as hell
Mm-hmm.
and emotionally abusive to everyone around him. He's gaslit them. He's done some shit. But yeah, Dylan hasn't learned anything. He thinks he has, but really, he's just disappointed that the woman he hooked up this week turned out to not be as above the money as I am. Fuck off.
Right. Yeah.
Some of us don't ever get the chance to find out if we would be horrible with money or not.
Yet. All right, so I don't disagree with any of that, but the worst person is Anne Smoker's Mouth. She has got she's got the wrinkles that happen when you smoke too much, or she's got the yellow teeth. There's just a whole smoker's mouth thing going on here that's real gross. I'm not a fan.
I wonder, do you think that's why she makes some of the facial choices that she does? Because her mouth does seem not pursed, but just like she's always keeping her lips over her teeth.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah. There's a reason she's the board queen.
Yeah. So it's Ann Smoker's Mouth. I find it off-putting, but it's fucking Diesel. Diesel sucks.
Yeah, there never a good moment.
Yeah, it's bad that Diesel is an abusive boyfriend.
Yeah.
It's almost unforgivable that he's a self-righteous prick about his art.
Yeah.
He's such a shithead. He's so above everybody else. And don't call me that. Don't call me Dennis. I've got a rep. Which, he says like it's a joke, but he fucking means it.
Yeah.
He's just, I don't know.
He never would have survived Captain Geach in the Shrimp Shack Shooters.
No, that's 1,000% true. He's never going to have his hit nearly as big as That Thing You Do.
Well, no, because he's a fucking mess.
Yeah. Which is a better name for a band? The Oneaters or Waste Management?
Waste Management.
Yeah, it's kind of a better name. I don't know. Fuck Diesel. He sucks. But there's something so funny to me about him being a guitar player. It's real hard to be a badass as a guitar player. And he is out there just badassing it. And you're like, oh, you're such a poser.
Well, and it's so funny to watch this retroactively because I just have a hard time taking David Arquette seriously. It's kind of how people felt about Jason Alexander playing bad guy in Pretty Woman. No one expected that, I don't think.
Oh, right. Even though that predated George by 3 years.
Yeah, it's one of those things where retroactively we're like, really? This is the casting choice we made? Well, whatever. If it gets him from here to here, cool.
You definitely did it. And I don't know. I think you should put a little respect on David Arquette's name. We are talking about former WCW heavyweight champion David Arquette.
No, we're not. What?
Yes, we are. That's 100% a true thing that really happened in the world. David Arquette was the heavyweight champion in WCW for a brief moment of real stupidity. WCW was a mess in the late 90s.
You're telling me Monica Geller, who dated a guy briefly on Friends and then breaks up with him because she can't handle being with a fighter, married a former fighter?
Although I don't think when did they get married?
Not until I think season 6. Season 6, I think, of Friends.
Which is when? 99, 2000? Friends started in 94. I think he was champion in 99.
Wait. Because I can see the episode where they put Arquette at the end of everyone's names.
Right.
I feel like it's 2001.
Okay. So he might have been champion already by the time he married her. But it's
So
close.
wild. I love the synchronicity of that.
I know. Well, if you're a champion, you're a champion. And David Arquette is a champion, and Diesel Stone is a champion of this Battle of the Bands and of beating up his girlfriend. Yep. But you know what? He's not a champion versus Brandon Walsh's powerful right fist and anger.
This is why he becomes a fighter.
You better learn if Brandon's going to kick your ass, you better get in the gym. You don't want that.
No.
All right, I think we did it.
We did.
Yeah. All right. So, join us here on Friday, Cheesemeisters, when we are going to watch whichever Star Trek movie has the Borg Queen in it.
First Contact.
Walter says First Contact, so I agree. So that's what we're going to watch. It'll be our first Star Trek, and we're not going in through the normal method of Bill Shatner is T.J. Hooker. Like, he's our connector for TOS, but First Contact is some next gen shit, so that'll be fun.
Better movies.
And join us here next week for season 3, episode 15, The Kindness of Strangers. It's a Thanksgiving episode.
Oh,
Yep. Which means it's a holiday episode, which means there's homeless people involved. This is what happens. Yep. Whenever there's a holiday, there's homeless people. So join us for that nonsense next week, Cheesemeisters. Until then. Bye.